The Department for Work and Pensions has insisted it published details of investigations into the deaths of benefit claimants as soon as we were able, but left serious questions unanswered. I'm Mike Sivier of Vox Political. Buy me a coffee. That's very poor code for donate to this channel so I can keep it going. If you saw yesterday's clip about this, you can do it while everybody else is watching this quick recap. So Disability News Service reported that the number of universal credit linked internal process reviews, they're called IPRs, had jumped from 31 cases in 23 to 24 to 55 in 24-25. Overall, 90 serious cases were reviewed last year, with 59 involving a death. DNS also stated that the DWP has refused to publish recommendations from IPRs dating back to 2020, despite previously telling a tribunal that at least some of that material would be released by March this year, 2025. Instead, the department has insisted that this information is still intended for future publication. In response, Vox Political submitted detailed questions to the DWP, asking why the IPR data was released immediately after the vote, whether the delay in publication denied MPs important context, why recommendations from 2020 onwards remain unpublished, whether the increase in IPRs reflects growing systematic risk. The department responded, asking that its statement be reproduced without edits. I am happy to comply. And I quote, DWP spokesperson said, "Our thoughts are with those affected by these serious cases and their loved ones. We support millions of people every year and are committed to listening and learning, acting on the recommendations from a small number of serious cases to improve our services and ensure people receive the help they need." While the number of internal process reviews has increased as we encourage more people to refer serious cases for review, the overall proportion of serious cases linked to universal credit has fallen since 2022 to 23. Background provided by DWP. DWP started publishing data on its IPRs in the 2022-3 DWP annual report and accounts, and since this period the proportion of IPRs linked to universal credit has fallen. In 2022-3, 65% of IPRs were linked to universal credit, which fell to 61 in 24-25. IPRs look at historic cases, and issues identified in the cases reviewed in recent years could have taken place some time ago. Over 20 million people safely use our services every year, and in 22-3 there were 47 cases where an internal process review was completed. We have started proactively publishing the recommendations from internal process review, emphasizing our commitment to transparency. We plan to publish IPR recommendations from further years in due course. We will set out our new safeguarding approach in the autumn to improve lives and ensure vulnerable people get the support they need. A review into the department's safeguarding approach was announced in the Pathways to Work Green Paper, and we are currently considering the consultation responses. We have already joined up our safeguarding approach by introducing a multidisciplinary team to ensure vulnerable people get the right support throughout their benefit journey. DWP introduced vulnerable customer champions, customer experience advanced support teams, and advanced customer support senior leaders as specialized support and escalation routes for colleagues working with vulnerable customers. We have processes in place to support people who have complex needs or who are vulnerable, and are committed to working with safeguarding adult boards and other agencies to make sure people get the support they need. The DWP's response acknowledges the rise in serious internal reviews, but frames it as a sign of improved internal vigilance, not increasing harm. But it does not answer the central concern: why the IPR figures were released after the benefit cuts vote, or whether that timing was deliberate. Nor does it explain why recommendations from IPRs conducted in 2020, 21 or 22 remain unpublished, despite clear commitments to do so. Instead, the department points to its recent publication of a single report covering just the 2022-3 year. That report, Advanced Customer Support, Learning and Improving from Serious Cases, contains a detailed breakdown of 47 cases investigated in that year. It identifies systemic failings across benefits, especially in universal credit. The department provided a further response to Vox Political after I published that story in both written and video form. The DWP now says, and I quote, "We published the ARA, Annual Report and Accounts, as soon as we were able to collate and audit all of the relevant information. We have published more information on our most serious cases than ever before, emphasizing our commitment to transparency. However, we needed to make sure that this is done in the right way and protect the sensitive and personal information that IPRs can include. While this offers some reassurance that sensitive content is being handled carefully, it still fails to address core questions, including whether the publication could or should have occurred before Parliament passed the universal credit cuts." What's still missing? Well, the timing of the publication. The figures were released just hours after MPs voted for cuts to the universal credit health element. The DWP has not said whether this was coincidence or if it could have released the data earlier to inform the debate. Missing recommendations. The department told the tribunal it would publish recommendations from IPRs dating back to 2020 by March 31 this year, 2025. That hasn't happened, and there's still no explanation for the delay or when to expect them. Why only 2022-3 recommendations were published? The DWP's Advanced Customer Support report includes some learning points from that year, but nothing from earlier cases, despite numerous IPRs being completed in 2020-22. Systemic reform tracking. There's no evidence that the DWP is tracking repeated failings across reviews, or that lessons from deaths and safeguarding failures are being embedded across the system. More questions have been sent to the DWP, of course. In response to the department's latest comments, I sent a further series of questions asking not only about the timing of the publication, but the responsibility of civil servants to ensure MPs were properly informed before voting on major changes to universal credit, as follows. Whether the publication date of July 10 for the annual report and accounts was set before or after the Commons vote on disability benefit reforms. Whether the department considered releasing the IPR figures separately or earlier to ensure MPs were fully informed, as civil servants are generally understood to be duty-bound to do when Parliament is making decisions on legislation. Why recommendations from IPRs carried out in 2020-22, which the department previously said would be published by March this year, still have not been released. Why only the 2022-3 IPR recommendations were included in the most recent publication, and whether earlier ones were excluded due to content sensitivity, or other reasons. Whether the department is tracking repeated failures or recurring recommendations across IPRs to identify systemic safeguarding risks, and if so, whether any such analysis has been published. The DWP has been asked to respond by midday on Friday, July 25, so this site may reflect its position in follow-up coverage. Why this matters: the rise in IPRs involving deaths and serious harm is not just a data point. It raises urgent questions about the safety of the benefits system, especially for vulnerable people. Too much key information remains delayed, withheld, or trickled out with minimal context and too late to shape policy decisions in Parliament. Vox Political will continue to press for transparency and to ask the questions that deserve answers, even when ministers would rather they weren't asked at all. I've been Mike Sivier, and if you didn't buy me that coffee earlier on, it's time to get your plastic out and buy me that coffee now. And it still means donating cash to the cause. Donate more than £20 and I'll give you a free copy of my reissued first book, Strong Words in Hard Times. Subscribe to the video mailing list, like and comment on this video clip, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you do all that, you'll be helping keep this channel alive, and then you'll be able to see me, as ever, in the next one.